Welcome to Money Convos, where we discuss personal finance and investment tips. We're committed to helping people create wealth and achieve financial freedom. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. All right then, let's head into today's conversation.
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for tuning in for today's conversation. We're going to talk about the second episode of the series, How to Get Rich. And it's a series on Netflix hosted by Ramit Shetty. And we'll be talking about it soon. Adam, I've invited you up. If anyone wants to join in on the conversation, please request the mic. Join us up here, especially if you've watched the episode or some part of this series. It will be good to have a conversation about it, so feel free to come up. I'll just give it a few moments while I bring Adam up, and Dennis, do join us if you're in a position to. Hi Dennis, how you doing?
Hi Elikem, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. So have you watched this episode yet?
Oh yes, I have.
Oh, you've watched the whole series already?
Yeah, I've watched it, but I never seem to get enough of it. So I'm rewatching it again.
That's nice, yeah. Can be quite binge worthy. I watched this one twice this week alone. So we're gonna get into this part of the conversation. Adam, I sent you an invite. If you don't see it, at least you could just request the mic and I'll bring you up, so you join us up here for the conversation. So we're gonna touch on a few themes that we picked up on in the series, or in this episode. It continues with some of the people that we started with in episode 1. What I found interesting is there was a couple that was in episode 1, and for episode 2 they said, Charlie, they no fit. They cannot continue doing the show. It was quite interesting. It happened right at the top of the episode, and in fact, from the end of the first episode to the beginning of the second episode, that was what happened. And it gets me thinking about the first thing happening in that episode is how people talk about money with their partners. Right? It's something that keeps coming up in Money Convos. I know we have some previous episodes about love and money, relationships and money. I know that if like a week before Valentine's Day this year, we did an episode like that. So feel free to go check in our feed about that conversation that we had. Quite a spicy conversation. Anyway, so now I'm curious. I want to know, what are your thoughts on talking about money with a partner? Dennis, I don't know if you are single yet. You can declare it. Maybe you may have some admirers in the audience who may now send application. But yeah, what's your thoughts on this? Then we hear from Adam. Or not just your thoughts, but how did you see that encounter between the couple going?
Well, for me, as you said, I'm not married, so I couldn't relate a lot with what was happening. But I think their situation was unique, where the lady, which is Amani, is rather the provider for the family, unlike many Ghanaian families where the man is the provider. And the man is the stay-at-home dad, wanting some respect and all of that. So I think the money issue for them was there were many underlying relationship issues, and then they used the money to cover it. And then we saw that the talks broke down at the beginning of episode 2. So I think for me, I think people use money. I think Rami even said it, that people use issues about money to cover deep underlying issues in their marriage or relationship. And when the money issue comes in, it becomes even worse and might even lead to something you don't want. I think that's what I observed from their encounter.
That's interesting. The conversation about money, when it comes up, it could be about a whole lot of other things. Yeah, deep stuff. Interesting. Adam, how about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Hello, Elikem. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. In fact, first, how you doing, man?
Yes. I'm good. Oh. I was having some issues at the beginning. I don't know what was happening, but
The haters
it's
didn't
good
want
to
you
be.
to join.
Yeah. So yeah, on to your question. I think, like Dennis said, this is like a unique couple. Even though they are in the West, and you would have expected that some of these things will not have brought up, or should not be a big deal. You realize that when it comes to money, it's still an issue. And even in as much as women say they want to be independent, they want to be this, and if you're a man and you're not making money, still, it's something. It always brings up something. So, they have this unique situation where the man rather is a stay-at-home dad, and then the woman is making about 6 figures. Okay, and here is the case where there are issues, like Dennis also said, there are other issues with the relationship where somebody, like now the man is feeling like, I'm making a lot of contributions, but I'm not being seen, and all of that. The woman also feels that you are not pushing enough, and what have you, and all these power play issues are underlying and then the money comes on top of it and causes a lot of stress. And one thing that I remember that Rami shared about was the fact that 70% of couples argue about money more than household chore or sex or for what's for dinner. And it's quite an interesting thing because if you remember about 2 weeks ago when I was sharing about my money, I told you that when it comes to talking about money, it's a very uncomfortable thing for lots of people. I think that this couple show us an example where it's very important that you deal with some of the money issues very early on in the relationship and not be running around with assumptions and or feeling like, hey, maybe because I am doing this person should see it. Like, but I think those conversations should flow more often. And unfortunately, because they've not been talking amongst themselves, when they now have the opportunity to meet with a third party, it blew apart. And now each of them was hearing things from the other partner that should not have come at where the third party was. You understand? Like these are things they should have said between themselves, and now they were both surprised that, oh, so this is what you have been thinking all this while. Oh, this is what you are harboring in your heart all this while. So it's important that communication, that feedback, giving of feedback and taking of feedback and talking among partners is held right from the beginning. Also, even before you say I do, and even after that, that constant communication between parties. Because like we say, our money situations change as we move along life. So we need to have that conversation. We need to keep going, no matter how difficult.
Charlie, it's interesting, yeah. It's interesting. People not having this conversation, and like you said, like it gets to a point where it has to be in front of a third party, like in front of camera, millions of people watching it. That these things are blowing up. Charlie, that's tough. That's really tough. And these are supposed to be real life stories, unless they are using actors. I doubt they are actors, but damn, bro. Like, how will all your friends see you? All these things are going on, but it's not even about the people per se. It's a question of are these kind of situations playing out in many people in other people's lives? And I can imagine many scenarios where these things are playing out, where the breadwinner is acting so callously towards the was it, should I use the term, the homemaker, or the one who takes care of the home and the children and all that. I mean, I think these people, last, the man too. What business do you have being a stay-at-home husband to and be suffering all these things? Eh, if you go and work, if you the problem is who raise the children, then you keep. We are all working now. Let's see how we both figure out who take care of the children. But then again, what do I know, right? But this gets me thinking. If we look if we look in life and the many things that are important in life, we require a license to be able to do them, or you have to have some qualifications. You can't just get up and say you want to drive. You understand? You need to go through some certification to get a license. If we were to think about it, imagine a hypothetical world that people needed a license to be in a relationship, or a proper license that requires you've been vetted and you've been tried and tested that you have good behavior before you marry. Charlie, like the institution of marriage, like it go end. In fact, let's not even get to the point of marriage self. Relationship, before you date, you must be properly emotionally ready. And then since Charlie, people go nash, people go nash, because sometimes I look at some people's behaviors in relationships and I'm like, what business do you have being in a relationship with this person? Like, how can you be in a relationship with somebody and you can't even have a conversation about important things with the person? I think that really tells that you shouldn't be with a person in the first place if you can't have a conversation about money. I'm not saying have this conversation on date one. No, I think you can have children with a person. Such a thing is important. Was it earlier this week or last week? A friend said something interesting to me, and it was funny. And she said that the problem with me is that I'm too smart, or I know too much, or I'm too logical. Well, she said a combination of these three things. And I was like in this context, how does it matter, right? And she's like, well, in relationships, everything should be just emotional. I'm like, bro, life is hard, though. Life is serious business. It's not everything that you be emotional. Yeah, like, be logical. You have to be logical about some of these things. Just because you love somebody doesn't mean you should throw your brain away. Yeah, your heart makes you stay with this person. Okay, the feelings, you are staying with this person, no problem. But how you stay with the person also matters. And that's where your head comes to play. Head over heart. You understand? But well, I guess some people are just flowing with their emotions, and I like the host said right at the top of the show. It's sad that people don't talk about money until there are problems, and by that time, Charlie, everything's scatter. If when you preempt these things, you talk about money while you are on good terms, and you just follow the plan, everything will be okay. You bad, but well, I just hope people would start looking at these things. Be careful who you get into a relationship with, who you end up having babies with. This just gets me thinking about our previous conversation on promiscuity and how it affects your money. Before you go and make a mistake, you are in a relationship with somebody, then you have a child, then now it becomes some type of way. You understand? So you need to take that stuff serious. Okay, let's see. Another thing that I was thinking about while reading this thing, right, is, remember the rich. It's even tough for me to say she's a rich woman. There's a woman. She's receiving alimony of $26,000 a month. Charlie, this is after tax money. Imagine if you are in the US and you are making that kind of money after tax. If I do the math, this is somebody who is probably, if it was an actual job, she would be earning like $350,000 a year. My math may be off, but around that. That is somebody who is, you are in literally you are in the 1% of the 1% too, at that point. And yet she's living hand to mouth. Her whole character in the show was quite interesting. And there are many angles. I think, you know what, let's delve into her a bit. She made a statement, and she said something to the tune of, if she had known what she knows now about money and all that, she would have like $500 million in her bank account by now. I'm sure that's an exaggeration, but let's even just say $10 million, right, to be okay. All right. She'll have all that money in her accounts, because when she thinks about the kind of money that has flowed through her hands, come and gone, Charlie. Now, if she had known these things, it would have been better. So this gets me thinking, what stops us from just taking action? Because the interesting thing about this person too is, as she's going through this process, she's being told certain things, and in that same episode, she makes some wild decisions that you would be surprised that somebody in her situation is making. Because she's one hand, she says she's downsizing, then she goes to buy a house which is way more bigger. Like, so yeah, Charlie, guys, what do you think about that? What stops us from taking action? We all know the things we are supposed to do, but we just don't do them. Any thoughts?
Elikem, I think this particular character, I was also intrigued with her, like watching everything. It's just like people only make emotional decisions And you can see that she's attached to a lot of things. Like, look at when she was starting the restaurant business. For a business that started out with a budget of, let me see, what she said, yeah, $250,000. And then she ends up spending $1.5 million. That
Imagine.
tells you, that tells you a very erratic person. Like, and then but I think that when Ramit tried to engage her and get to her background, the issue when we were doing psychology of money, also when you want to understand people's philosophy or people's mindset about money, you realize that she says she comes from a home that her father was rich, but her mom was poor. And it's like she grew up with her mother and she's seeing her life now as a way of trying to sort of get back at those poor times. So I have to spend on all the things that I could not afford as a young girl. That's the kind of, because for somebody who says, oh, you admit you have a money problem, you are agreeing to downsize and everything. Then now you go and buy a house that is bigger than the house you are currently in, which is actually putting you in a tight corner. Like you can see that she's just making emotional decisions. You see. And for somebody on alimony of $6,000 a month, Charlie, it's serious. But unfortunately, I think that's one of the challenges sometimes. We might end up making decisions only based on emotions and not logical or clear thought decisions. And that's what like I like about what you said, especially maybe that one was in the context of relationships, but also as individuals. I think we should take decisions on money before sometimes you see the money in your hand. Because sometimes some people, when they see the money now, their mind goes haywire. So some of the decisions, if you take them earlier and then try and put yourself out of it, that time you are able to think much more clearly. But some people, when you see the money, then your mind starts to rotate and move in another direction. Then you start making decisions in a wild way. So it's very, very important that we are thinking clearly when we are taking decisions. And for her, she really had a spending problem. That was her issue. Her problem was not the amount of money she was earning. It was how she was just spending it irrationally, and that was it. So, and that challenge normally happens if you are too emotional or you are attached. You are just moving on the spur of the moment, just according to your feelings, and not necessarily according to your situation and the plan that you are working with.
Yeah, Charlie. Those kind of acting on emotions, it will end you up in these kind of situations. Yeah. Then, is any thoughts on her behavior?
I think Eden mentioned a very important point. She was trying to keep up with the lifestyle. So we noticed from the episode that she basically lives in one of the richest neighborhoods in the world. And we are living in a place like that. You have to keep up with the lifestyle. We saw her expensive car, her house, the amount of shopping, $500,000 a year only on shopping. So I think the lifestyle was one contributing factor to huge expenses. We also have, I think there was an issue about her paying a financial advisor to manage her money for her. So there could also be the lack of confidence in managing her own money. Maybe that could be a factor with her keeping money around just for people to do things for her so that she doesn't have to do things herself or make tough decisions herself. So I think she was also very undecisive about what she wants. Yeah, so I think that's what I'll think about it.
That concept of indecision, and also there's this I don't know. I don't know is one of the phrases I hate hearing most. Like you ask somebody a question and I don't know. And I think Ghanaians have a habit of saying I don't know for just as a filler word. It's easily, it just comes out of the mouths of of Ghanaians all the time. And it's one of my pet peeves. I can't stand it. Because immediately someone says, I don't know, I shut down. Like, if you don't know, nothing you are saying after that is relevant. Let me go and talk to someone who knows. But anyway, we may joke about some of these things, but it has serious implications. And one of the implications for her is that she's seeing a lot of unforeseen expenses, right? So it's flowing into a new theme of you mentioned there's unforeseen expenses. There's what you mentioned about paying other people to do stuff. Even the business plan. She was asked to do a business plan for her restaurant, and she's like, okay, she's gonna hire somebody. When the guy asked her, "How are you going to fund the? How much are you paying the financial advisor you've given your money to?" She says, "I don't know." I'm like, bro, nobody does anything out of their goodness of their hearts. The simplest question you could ask is, so how much am I paying you for this service that you're offering me? Right? It doesn't make sense. And on financial advices, the host offered some tips. He said that don't get into a contract that pays a percentage of your money every year. Like, here's the person will charge 1% a year. Rather, pay somebody for the advice, whether it's hourly or per project. Unless you have a very complicated kind of situation, or your money is or your money is so much, like $1 million or more. Like, even me, when I was in finance, when I was in investment management, I didn't used to manage my own money. I would uh, I didn't, of course, I couldn't afford a wealth manager, right? But rather, what I would do, I want to augment what the tips he gave, is put it in a mutual fund, buy stocks, just get some basic understanding, buy treasury bills, just know some of these things so that you can invest the money yourself. You understand? Or at least just put it in a mutual fund. That way it can be diversified for you. Yes, I know all that's going on. The mutual funds are not so liquid now with the debt restructuring and all that, but when it's all fixed and the system is back, it's still the best option, in my opinion, for the average person. But yeah, so that's the first part about paying people. Also, doing the research on your own, just to take some effort to do it. Then is, in fact, the Money Convo squad. There's something that I'm paying someone to do for Money Convo. That they pay me pass. But now for me to do it myself too, I'm being lazy. I have to figure it out. But Dennis will hold me to task tomorrow to do that thing. Anyway, yeah. So if we are able to do things on our own, we may end up saving ourselves a world of trouble. Understand our business some more, understand our own affairs some more, rather than just delegating to people for free. And then let them charge money to do that. Next thing that her behavior also got me thinking about, like I was saying at the top, I don't know. And now this is a question I have for my speakers and my fellow panelists. Guys, how do we eradicate this concept of I don't know? How do we get people to start doing due diligence? How do we get people to care enough about the details such that we have fewer unforeseen events? Because sometimes people say, I didn't expect something. And it's not any reasonable person could have expected it. You just didn't ask certain questions, right? So, any tips you can offer to help people? Adam, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, anything, but I think one of the things I do most of the time is that I am slow to rush, or like, yeah, I don't rush into things. I try to think through things a little bit. And then you see that sometimes when you think through things a little bit, you start to see what could possibly go wrong. You can ask yourself those questions like, okay, so what can possibly go wrong? And if you can anticipate what can go wrong, then you can actually have contingency plans towards those unforeseen, or what would have looked like an unforeseen circumstance. So, like, for example, this one that she's going into the business, she was only looking at the positive side. Oh, this is how much I can possibly get. This is how much. But then you should ask yourself, so what if maybe you run, and then you can ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario? What if I open the restaurant today and no one buys? What am I doing? When you start asking yourself those type of questions, then you can be able to start planning for the worst case scenario, so that you don't have a situation where you have something happening, but it looks like as an unforeseen circumstance, but what actually it was, that is something, it is an unplanned, like you didn't plan, so that is why the thing has hit you like an unforeseen scenario, or circumstance. So we should take our time and think through, whether it's a business you want to go into or an investment. Yeah, like an an invest, especially these are investments. When people are trying to sell a product to you, do you even understand the basics? Let the person explain to you like a class one out. What is this product you are selling to me? And then how do I get my money back? If I cannot get my money, what will happen? Those simple basic questions. Let's just ask questions and then you will see that you'll be able to start thinking and getting answers. And once you have the answers ahead of time, then if maybe the unforeseen so-called happens, then probably you have a plan B or a plan C that you can work with. So that is one suggestion I can give, that take your time, ask the right questions, and then start planning for have a plan B or plan.
Those are some really good tips. Don't rush. Take your time and then ask questions. When you put yourself in the mindset to just ask questions, what if, you'll be surprised all the kind of answers you get. And sometimes it's not even just about the answers you get. If the person who's supposed to give you the information is getting frustrated that you're asking all these questions, then you may now ask yourself, what, should I be getting into business with this person, or should I be trusting this person with this kind of transaction? So yeah, those are good tips. Do you have any more tips?
Yeah, I think Adam makes a really good point about asking questions, and you always tell me that I should always learn how to consume information, and I think this is a basic problem we have maybe in Africa. I wouldn't just say Ghana. So we are often walking absent-minded. We are not aware of our surroundings, what's going on, and we are also often distracted by things, easily distracted. So I mean, we should be able to. And I watched an interesting YouTube video I think last week on how distractions can affect us, and it's totally not our fault. The problems are plenty, and we know. But the goal is to bring your mind back when you start thinking about a lot of things. So I want to start my investment. I've gone to university. I'm trying to learn the basics about investment. But quickly you find yourself thinking about something else. But the exercise is to bring your mind back to what you are trying to consume and consume it well when you have the attention. If you do that, you'll be able to know the things we often say we don't know. And when we don't know things, we should hold ourselves accountable with that and ask ourselves, why don't we know? Like, this is something I should know. And I think if we develop that willingness to learn things on our own, and if we develop that willingness to consume information and learn how to minimize distractions, we know the things we should.
Wow, those are really powerful points. I like how you're talking about focus, and it's true. Because you go, I don't like picking up my phone. I can relate. I tell people, don't send me WhatsApp messages, because if I have to touch my phone frequently, nothing will get done during the whole day. Just call me. So that the only time I'm picking up my phone is to answer calls. But yeah, so we all suffer from that. Sometimes we enjoy the distractions, all the social media challenges and things. Right? And then we just get distracted from the things that we are supposed to do. So those are really good tips. If we get distracted, just bring your mind back. Yeah, and consume information as much as possible. Don't look for shortcuts. In the US, there's this term that we use. Is it TLDR? Too long didn't read. So a lot of people just want you to give them the short version. Or if you send a long WhatsApp message, someone will say, Charlie, can you make it a voice note? Okay, maybe audio is okay for you, but if it means you will just want a summary, sometimes you need to get into the weeds of important things. So dive deep and try to get the details so that you don't get surprised. I was just listening to a podcast about Cisco, how that tech company got started I think in the 80s or 90s. And the founders brought on a private or a venture capital investor, and when they signed the agreement with them, they didn't let a lawyer read it. They didn't read it. Now, these are very highly educated people, professors at Stanford. So they should know better. They should be able to have the mental capacity to read such documents. But well, business is not their forte. They just want to make cool gadgets. But they didn't read it, and it cost them a lot because they lost all control. The shares, their own shares in their own company,
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
would lose it, and they will have to work for the company for 4 years before they actually get the shares. So all these things, they happen. The devil is in the details. So consume information as much as possible. Great. All right. So let's move on to other themes. Let's bring it to some people that maybe we may be able to relate to, away from the rich madam. There's this couple, a woman who is starting her woodwork business and her husband, and they were talking about credit cards. Yes, for us in Ghana, we don't have to worry about credit cards. But then what came up is this cool word. Oh my, I love this cool word. I think we need to adopt it as money convos. Come up with a spending plan. Now, can I just get some reactions? If I told you that we are going to sit down and draw a spending plan for you, how does that sound? Doesn't that sound cool? And what's that replacing? Budget. So instead of calling it a budget, which has such a negative connotation, if you call it a spending plan, that sounds like fun. Sounds like, okay, you're not going to stop spending, yeah, but that just means, you're gonna you're going to spend your money the way you want to spend it. And who doesn't want a plan to go the way they want, right? So when they were going through this guy's history, and they were talking about, well, have a joint account and all that, some stuff came up about his spending. He's spending too much on certain things. But anyway, I'll circle back to that. Let's talk about this spending plan. Adam, what do you think? Should we adopt this new name?
Yeah, LHM, I think he also added the word conscious money spending plan.
Oh, Adam, now you're not making the thing sexy again. You have unsexy the thing.
Oh,
They are
but I
trying
think
to catch you over here.
I think the spending plan is awesome. Like, I mean, that gives you it gives you the idea that yes, you are going to be using the money for something. So it's just that now you have a plan with how you spend it. That's all. And I think that's wonderful. At least, like you said, it doesn't have that. When people say budget, I think you see it like you're cutting something out. You are restricting yourself to something. But if you say a spending plan, yeah, we all know that there's going to be outcomes. So it's just that this time now we are going to direct it in some particular ways and in some particular directions. And that for me is cool.
Yeah, we know that we are going to spend the money, but it has to go the way we want it to go down. That's great. So henceforth, let's try and call it spending plan. No more budget. Anyway, all right. So speaking of what people spend their money on, it busts my brain how people can be struggling, and yes, they'll spend money on certain things. But well, it happens. It happens. So it gets us thinking about our guilty pleasures. How expensive are our guilty pleasures? This person spends about $600 a month on games. A month, not a year. Games, every month, and he's sitting under a huge credit card debt. He barely has any savings. He thinks living hand to mouth, but he's still spending money on all these things. So it gets you wondering. Adam, I doubt you can relate to this issue, but do you know of any do you think this is a problem that is prevalent? I see it a lot over here in the US. People enjoying their lives and thinking that people should give them free money. Is it something that goes on in Ghana too?
Oh, I think probably like this example of him using about $600 a month on games might be weird over here. But we have people also here who use a lot of money on other things, not necessarily related to core important things in their life. So I think it's just a matter of what the money is going into. But generally, I think we have these kinds of people everywhere in the world. No matter, I mean, this is supposed to be the US. I mean, where land of opportunity and everything. you have somebody right there in such a situation. So you can just imagine. But here in Ghana, too, we definitely have people who are locked up in some kind of lifestyle that is causing them a lot of financial stress. But I think the difference is that whereas in the US there's easy access to credit, probably here it's a much, much more difficult thing to do. So that is why you wouldn't have people necessarily in that way, but you would have them having to rely on relatives, co-workers, friends, and things for extra money to be able to make it to the end of the month.
Adam, you say we don't have access to credit in Ghana like the US. True, it doesn't reach that magnitude, but I think people have so much access to credit. Like if you talk to some people, the people that they owe, in fact, if each of us here on this conversation, we think about all the people who owe us. For me, I stopped giving money many years ago. So my balance sheet doesn't have that many borrowings that I've given out. But Charlie, if you think about it, one time I was thinking about doing like a personal, like a way we can track who has borrowed from who on a personal level. A lot of people will realize that, Charlie, people are living some kind of lives. And fine, these games and examples that I gave may be exaggerations, but let's see what are some of the things that people spend ridiculous money on in Ghana. Some guys there, Charlie, they spend money on women or partying every weekend, partying. There's that. I know some people who spend so much money on makeup, wig, jewelry, shoes, bags, all those things. Like people spend some money that they can't afford. It's one thing if you can afford it, but if you can't afford it, that's a whole different thing. But then the question of even what do people think they can afford is probably the starting point that we need to figure out. But yeah, it does happen, and we each individually need to think about what are our guilty pleasures, what are we spending money on that we shouldn't be spending money on. So yeah. Okay, great. Let's move on to a few other themes before we wrap it up. Oh, there was a punchline. We keep talking about the decision to buy and sell your home, or wait, buy or rent, buy your home or rent. And then there was this punchline that was given, and he said that when you rent is when it comes to like where you stay, rent is the maximum that you will pay, but the mortgage is the minimum that you will pay. Because when you rent, you just pay your monthly rent and you are done. If there's a problem, you call the landlord. If there's any matter, somebody else is supposed to come and fix it. But when you own the home, apart from the mortgage, that's the monthly payments to own the home, there's taxes that you have to pay, there's repairs, there's insurance, there are so many things. In fact, it came up, homeowners insurance. Like, so many homeowners association fees in Ghana, these luxury apartments and luxury buildings, they talk about monthly maintenance charges, all those things. Charlie, it's interesting, yeah. So these are all things that it comes up again in the context of I didn't know, unforeseen expenses. So before you make some of these moves, you have to think ahead of time that okay, these are the kind of expenses that will come. This is what it entails to be a homeowner. Can I really afford it? Am I going to be comfortable with this lifestyle? If not, maybe I should find an alternative. These are some things that we need to think about. So yeah. Adam, what do you think about that quote? Rent is maximum, mortgage is minimum.
Oh, it's true to a large extent. It's just that probably here in Ghana, sometimes, people check responsibility. So you could have a landlord that you have some repairs, but if you are waiting for your landlord to come and fix it before, then you might as well wait for the rest of your life. But yeah, you have those kinds of issues there. But it's very, very, very true. I just this afternoon I went for who was the neighborhood or residents association, and one of the issues that came up was how the ground rent where we live in Teshigwe, it's state housing that all the owners have bought the properties from. So we pay ground rent to state housing, and they've increased the ground rent threefold. And then property rates too have gone up ridiculously about 4 or 5 times just from last year. So there was this one of these homeowners who is, she and her husband are on retirement, and she was just mentioning this thing up there and how it's true. They just don't know how they are going to be able to afford to pay these kinds of. And then it got me thinking that, wow, if you are thinking about home ownership too, we don't really think about all these things, like ground rent, there's property taxes, and then, like you said, in some places you also have a homeowners association. Every month you have to pay some money because you also have to fix some things. Because the only reason we went for the meeting was because of we had recent security issues in the people are attacking, so we need to fix it. Like, if we say we are waiting for government, it's going to be forever. So we have to take that initiative on our hands. That's an extra expense if you are a homeowner, So all these things are there that will come, and you might not envisage them. You might think it's just the cost of putting up your house or the cost of paying your mortgage, but that is the least cost you would incur, like you said. So you should, I think the whole idea is just plan and think ahead and factor in all these things when you are dealing with your things and realize that it's not as simple as just saying that I have a house here in this corner. So many expenses. I'm not even talking about the repair and maintenance and how you have to prepare your house. And when we are normally doing, we know that within 25 years, you will have to 25 to 30 years, you have to think about replacement of your roof and all of those things come up, so it's a lot of expenses that you must plan and prepare for all of them.
Wow. All these things that you've mentioned, I'm just wondering how many people even knew these things existed. Because the property tax, Charlie, are people even paying? How many people even have insurance for their homes? Adam, I'm curious. If is there any database or has somebody conducted some assessment to say that, okay, if you are going to own a house in Ghana, based on XYZ factors, this is a sense of what your monthly or annual maintenance costs are going to be, or your total cost of ownership are going to be. Like, is there any such data?
Unfortunately, you see, data has always been our problem here. But what like in our field, there's something like as there's something we call life cycle cost. And I think, I don't know if I raised that issue the time we're talking about home owners to buy or to build. I think I remember mentioning that thing that, when, for me, if you ask me how much does it cost, you see, there are two kinds of costs. Yes, there's construction cost and then there's also life cycle cost. Okay, so the life cycle cost is the cost of the building throughout its life cycle. So if, for example, you are putting up a building, let's say put up a 3-bedroom house, okay, and then it costs you, let's say 500,000. That's just the cost of construction. There is also the life cycle cost where now there's maintenance. And like I mentioned, ideally, so maybe every 2 or 3 years, you should repaint the house. Every 25 years, you should re-roof. You might have to do some major upgrades for windows and doors and things maybe every 10 years. And some other issues that may come up, not to talk. And then rewiring is a very important aspect. You must be thinking about rewiring about, I think, 10 to 15 years in. All these things are cost. And unfortunately, because most of us are just engaged for construction, and when we are done, homeowners basically forget about us, and then they just have their houses, and people don't keep clear records of the kinds of amount of money they spend on their maintenance. That data has been quite difficult to come up, but generally what we are able to do is to do some projections for, okay, so if it is your unique situation, this is your house, and this is how much we can do some projections for, okay, how much it might cost you for the life cycle of the project. And that is what we then are able to use to determine whether this kind of development makes sense or it does not make sense because the cost might be too much compared to the returns you are going to get.
This is interesting. So the professionals have a sense of this kind of information, but like you said, after the house is built, they start living inside, they forget you. So and it's true that we don't have data is a problem, and this reminds me of a few months ago we brought someone on to talk about the survey that was done among young people and how they is it the savings survey or something like that. And then what's the name of that survey?
Yes, I think it was Ghana Earnings Survey or something
Yeah,
to try and check how young professionals, how much we earn, and then as part of the survey, there were questions about people how much they saved or about savings and investment. So it was about earnings and savings and investment, and then also there was a question about home ownership somewhere in there.
Okay, cool. You know what? Even if we don't have the data, we don't have the numbers, I think it would be a good idea that people have a checklist like this ready, such that, okay, I want to build a house, or I'm thinking about building a house, or I've even started, or I've bought land. Before I go into it, let me at least know the kind of cost I should investigate and go and ask people. Because I quite remember one time I was considering this, and my mother was saying, "Oh, don't worry, it's not so big a deal. I've built my house, blah blah blah." And I was like, "How about all these unforeseen things?" Like, when you ask people questions, they always oversimplify it. Oh, it's not so expensive. It's not. Then you go and enter inside, and then it will end up costing you 10 times what you anticipate. So, if we have that list today, people will know that, okay, I should find out this. I should find out that. Truth is, if a lot of people did all these checks, a lot of things wouldn't happen. A lot of the things that we do in our countries, inshallah and vibes, some industries will go down. But Dennis, maybe make a note of this. Let's see if we can come up with such a question. We can start with, we'll play back the recording, make a list of all the things that Eden said, and then maybe come up with an article sometime later that we can be updating. Questions people should be asking. Right? Please, let's put it on aspirational goals. Okay, great. Two more things that I want to run by you guys about this show before we wrap it up. And perhaps I'll start with Dennis, your perspective on this. We saw this person, this same guy that is buying what's it called? Spending $600 a month on games, on video games. This same guy. He was coming home one time and his I don't want to spoil the series for anyone, but look, it's not even one of a suspense-filled series in the sense that it's for entertainment. That if I come and tell you about Game of Thrones, you will vex and you go and watch it, guys. Even if we talk about it, I encourage you go watch it. So me narrating the story won't spoil anything for you. You should see it for yourself. Hear these stories for yourself. It will hit you different. So he had ordered stuff from Amazon because he has an Amazon problem. Boxes have come, sneakers, jeans, stuff have come. And the wife is videoing him. He's taking his walk of shame. And she's asking him to go and return these things. He says he needs jeans. Chairman needs the sneakers and his jeans. Meanwhile, he has plenty too. So the question becomes, one of the things he said in his defense was that they were on sale. So my question for you is, how often have you or people you've seen bought things just because they were on sale? Not whether you need it or not, and you can afford it or not. It was on sale, so you just went ahead and bought it. Yes, Dennis, can you speak for yourself or anyone you know?
Yeah, so for myself, I call them immediate cravings. So maybe some time back, I was having maybe some cravings for some jollof or something, and maybe it's not in your plan. It's not in my plan. Maybe I want to buy some yam or some cool yam to save some money. But immediately I see maybe the jollof or the wachi, then I jump into buying it, and it has happened to me multiple times. So it's the relapse. It happens. Sometimes you commit yourself like you did to your goal to cut the debt, cut it expenditure on some things which are not beneficial. Sometimes you find yourself relapsing and then buying some of these things. And then by the time you realize you spent so much, you've gone back to it. It happens. It has happened to me so much.
That's interesting. Instead of going to buy your yam, buy your fried yam and mind your own business. You are going to eat jollof. This guy, you know me out there. By the way, it's true. It's true. It happens. It happens quite often where when we buy things at the wrong time. We saw a good deal, in air quotes, good deal. So we go and buy it. Adam, how about you? In fact, as I'm even asking Adam this question, 'cause I know the answer. But let's see, Adam. Has it ever happened to you? You didn't plan to buy something, but you saw something on sale. And the spirit was willing, but the flesh was weak.
Oh, as for will I say on sale? Not necessarily because it was on sale. That I think that is why I always tell you that I plan because I know myself. If I enter a shop and I don't have a plan, I most likely will come out of the shop out of budget. So it happened not once or twice, like it happens. That is why I say I normally like to plan before I go. If I'm entering a shop, especially supermarket, I have my clear idea what the list of things I'm going to buy, then I go and buy and I come out. But if I should enter and I'm having money on me, okay, so the other option is that then I don't have enough money on me and I'm buying just one or two things and I know that this one I can't even afford. But if I have money on me or I have access to my mobile money where there's money on my wallet, then there's trouble. So that problem is there, and that is why it's key. Before I do some of these purchases, I plan and I go with my list, and I know that I'm sticking with it, and I carry just enough money to satisfy the things that I need. Then I won't go and then I see that this thing has been reduced to clear, so I'm forced to buy it because I know myself before I realize I'm buying it. But like I said, I told you 2 weeks ago, I've come to learn this lesson that when I see things on sale, I am even much more skeptical when I see they are on sale because I've seen that people have hoodwinked us for too long.
So people have hoodwinked you for too long. Have hoodwinked us for too long. That's true. That's true. Well, yeah, for me, I guess it's happened to me a few times. Nothing too memorable. I know just recently, I bought some items. They were on sale for like 40, 40% discounts, but they had been on my list for a long time. So it's something that, like Eden mentioned, was on a plan. And I was waiting for Black Friday already. And then as Black Friday was coming closer, it's like the Black Friday, they like it to be Black weeks, not just one day. So the deal started coming up and I was like, oh, anyway, let me go and cross this thing off my list because it's at a good price. And that price, I knew the original price that they were quoting had really been the actual price. So yeah, but I hate going to shops, man. I hate going to shops. So for me, anytime I walk out of a shop, my mission is to leave this place with as few things as possible. I don't even carry a cart. Today I went to buy some things. I had to buy some banana and avocado and then one of my guilty pleasures. Dennis knows the other thing I went to pick up. When I went, I didn't carry a basket. No, no, no. I was in a hurry. I just grabbed this. You should see me in a shop. I look so awkward because I'm holding things without a basket. Because the motive, if I take a basket, then I relax. Then I just fill up the basket. No, 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 no. I can't do that. Everything is by hand. Quickly, in and out, real quick. I see someone is chasing me out of there. So yeah, that's how one of the ways I try to save myself from these things. And then also there's like online shopping. I make my list and I just put things in the cart, and as and when I hit a minimum where I can get free delivery, then I have it delivered. And hey, that one too is there. Rather than go and just be browsing through these things. No, 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 no. It won't happen. And then the last thing I wanted to run by you. How does it feel like when when you are dealing with people, maybe someone you're in a relationship with, or a partner in business, or a classmate, or even a friend, and they can't stick to a plan? Whether it's they can't make a plan, or today they are saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this." Next thing you see now they are doing something else. Because some of the people in the show that we are talking about, they exhibited this kind of behavior. How do you feel when people do this, and what's your reaction, or how do you behave around such people? Adam, you want to get us started?
Yeah, Elikem, dealing with some people like that can be tiring, especially if you are trying to help them and it seems as if you are rather being a problem because like Ramit at a point in time, it felt like some of the people, it's as if it's a delicate line. You don't want to be seen as if you are pushing or imposing things on people. You want people to also like voluntarily follow a plan that they themselves say this is the path they want to start. I deal with young people a lot at church, trying to deal with mentors and mentees and stuff like that. So I have these kind of situations where you have agreed with somebody, and normally I always like to let the person come up with the idea or the plan and commit themselves. It's not like I am saying do this, so that it's like you are the one saying this is what you want. But then when you go 360 and come and realize that you are back at square one, the person has not taken any step on that, or they have gone off tangent and doing exactly what they said maybe they are not going to do it. And it can be very frustrating, can be very tiring. But sometimes, like I think in the case of Rami, sometimes you might just have to deal with some people on their own terms. Slowly they would learn and pick up. Or some people you just have to give them some space. Like I think the couple that had the issue, they asked for space. So that because I think the time they had the issue, the discussion at the beginning, it was too heated, so they needed some space. And like this other our rich woman who lives paycheck to paycheck was also he had to deal with her in a very calm and like it was frustrating because the very thing that she says, oh, I need to downgrade, and the next thing is buying a new house. I mean, it can be very frustrating, but you just have to come and realize that, especially when you are dealing with people who are, I mean, once they are more than 20 years and go, most of them, their characters are almost cast in stone. It's going to be very difficult change and get new habits. So you have to be patient if you really want to help them.
That's true. It will require a whole lot of patience if you want to help them. And that's where the condition, I like that condition that you put, if you want to help them. And I'll circle back to that in a moment. But I'm curious, Dennis, what do you think?
I think I align with Adam's point on that. Um, so sometimes you feel you are making progress with whoever you are trying to help. And mostly you are trying to help them, you don't gain anything from it, basically. But then the person is not putting in any effort to even encourage you to do more for them. So it's very hard and very frustrating, but sometimes we need the composure. And I think that's why mostly they allow us to do group work in school. So in groups, I mostly like to take up the leadership role so that we get things done earlier. And most of the time, always you get someone who is frustrated in the group, but then you need to have that level head to put things in place and then have some patience to deal with them. Maybe the person is not seeing the picture you are painting now, but hopefully the person will get it in the near future. So I think patience plays a key role, just like that.
Yeah, patience. Group assignments. Yeah. At least if I have some assignments, I better go and do it. Anyway, my take on this is it comes to what Adam was saying about if you want to help them. So personally, I think we as individuals want to do the best for ourselves. Now, when we extend ourselves to want to help other people, I think we need to be careful about how we put our energies in it. Everyone is running their own journey, and you may have your motivation for what you want to do. And sometimes in your quest or your zeal or your energy to help people, to help people achieve what they want to achieve, what they themselves said they want to achieve, and perhaps may have even asked for your help to get them to achieve it, you may end up affecting the kind of relationship you have with them. So then it becomes a dicey conversation or a dicey decision that you have to make. How much do you commit to this? Right. And I encourage everyone to just like do what you can as much as possible to help people, but also know what limits you have, how much energy you have, because taken from my personal experiences, though when I was in investment management, it was my job. I don't have a choice. If I come up with a financial plan with my clients, I can't say, well, if you follow the plan, I'll leave you. Then they'll fire me. Not be so. So that one there, I don't have much of a choice. So I have to put in as much energy to be patient with those kind of situations. Then but if it's in your personal life and it's not compulsory and you want to do it, you need to be more measured. You need to ask yourself, is this something you are willing to do? Sometimes there's also a question of, is it a battle is it a battle you can win? You have a chance to win or not? Or let's not even think about it as a battle. You could ask yourself, this goal that this person has, is this something that they can actually achieve? It's like, I've engaged with many people who say, oh, I want you to mentor me. I want you to help me do this and do that. And we start and it falls by the wayside. And I have people who've also come to me and they follow through with it. Dennis is one such person, right? In such journeys, you really need to be careful about your energy. I'll give you an example. Someone asked me about some investment options some time back. I'm no more a licensed investment manager in Ghana, so I can't speak to certain things too much. But what I know and I can trust and I can vouch for, I'll speak to that. But I can't speak about anything else beyond that. And when I'm engaging with people, I know that if somebody says, oh, Elikem gave me some advice to go and do something, that's my reputation on the line. So if I feel like this person is not going to follow the advice right, or is going to do whatever they want, and whatever results, like, you can give somebody advice. They won't follow it. But at the end of the day, they will end up blaming you because you were somehow involved in the process. Somebody will even say, oh, but you didn't work hard enough to convince me to do that. I'm like, oh. So after we've come up with the decision, I convinced you, you agreed, and you went to do something else. You are still coming back to me to tell me what. So then I asked myself, at what cost? Like, is it worth my reputation being put at risk? You get me? So basically, I'm just saying, like, as we want to extend beyond ourselves to help out other people, let's help out people as much as possible. But let's also know how much energy we have, how much patience we have, and not risk certain relationships. You can just help people softly, gently, without pushing too hard. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the conversation. And in light of people helping people, I strongly encourage you all, follow Money Convos here on Twitter or X. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. When you get on Instagram, don't follow only us. Also, go follow investment_friend. There, Sarah and Mimi, they have patience. They want to help you. They will go above and beyond to help you reach your financial goals. Over here at Money Convos, we speak generally, but we all know that everyone's journey is different. And we need to help, and you need some advice that would suit your circumstances. And that's what you can get at Investment Friend. They are your investment friend. So go follow over there and share the link to that page, share that profile with your friends. Let everyone get to know about it so that you won't be the only one becoming financially independent. All the people around you become financially independent. And if you enjoy this conversation and you want to listen to other conversations that we've had, do get on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for Money Convos, and you will play back all those conversations we had, and do share with other people. Charlie, guys, I just to drop shout outs. I have a friend. She's Ghanaian, but she's been in the US all her life, and she was telling me how yesterday she was braiding her hair, and she binged. When they are braiding hair, it takes forever. So she wanted something to just listen to while she was passing away the time. And she binged like 4 or 5 episodes of Money Convos. And I was so happy. Charlie, at least we are entertaining people enough to that even after 30 minutes they don't want to end the conversation. People say Money Convos this podcast is too long, blah blah blah. But Charlie, some of these things that we are saying, we can't capture it in 15-second video. We can try and do some audio editing, but I feel like the full context matters. So shout out to my friend. I don't know if she wants me to mention her name out in the air, but she knows who I'm talking about. In fact, I'm going to have a conversation with her in a few hours to discuss the stuff that she mentioned. But yeah, I appreciate all the people supporting us. Nana Preku always first in class, but lately he's pursuing some great academic endeavors. So he wasn't on time to class today, but we know he's making great strides there. We wish him all the best. Mr. Beckley, pulling up here all day, every day. Edward Lanyo, I think I've seen you. I think I may have seen this name a few times. Blanky, this horse image, I think I've seen it before, but we really appreciate all of you. Some people have come and gone. We appreciate you guys for hanging in here. I kid you not, sometimes it's tough to come back here and just see an empty room, but knowing that you all will be here, keeping us going. I know that I log in, I'll play some jazz for you. Edem will pull up as soon as he can. Dennis will pull up. I know Sarah will come support. Mimi will come with her backing vocalist, like all the people who support in this agenda. I really appreciate you all. Right. And yeah. Oh, Sarah, by the way, my friend who was listening, she was like, oh, there was a lady on the call. What's her name? Sarah? And I was like, no, it's Sarah. So yeah, anyway, that's what the lights and those guys. I appreciate you all so much. As we are going into this week, if you are looking for some entertainment, some Netflix series to watch, please go and watch How to Get Rich on Netflix. It's a good show. A lot of the information there is relatable. It's true, it's the US context, but you can see it happening with yourself, with your friends, with many people. Let's learn the lessons from there and be deliberate. All right. Do take care. Have a productive week, and see you next week. Bye.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our thoughts. I hope you learned a thing or two and start practicing. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. Do tell a friend about Money Convos so we all become wealthy together. Talk to you soon. Bye.